Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Shatay, and we're the Hazes.
and welcome to the Love Haze podcast, where we believe that healing and wholeness are not just destinations.
That's right. We believe they're a journey, and here on the Love Haze, we talk about how to navigate through it.
Today, we're going to talk about who hurts you and how that hurt shows up in your life. Thanks for joining us on our Black love journey. Let's get right into it.
There you go.
So, in thinking about who hurts you, I think about sometimes when I'm just scrolling social media or when we're watching some of our reality TV shows, or even when I just hear somebody say something that sounds so toxic that my immediate thought is, man, who hurt you? Because that person is saying something that sounds so marred with like their past traumas or
Marred.
Yeah, I got that right. It sounds so marred with or like filled with their past trauma that it seems like they can't formulate a thought that's not tied into that hurt for them. Like they can't imagine like somebody doing something that would be um, an act of faith or an act of belief in another person without them being like, no, I would never do something like that.
Or it's just like how they're responding has absolutely, it can't be about the current situation.
Like it can't be about that thing. It can't be that
It's gotta
serious
be
for them.
about something else.
And they say it or they do it or they make this action or they make this move and you'd be like, I was definitely from a place of hurt. And it makes you say, like, really, who hurts you? Like, how? And what are you doing right now? Do you not see yourself? Like, you look foolish. But also, it makes me think about the fact that, you know, I've had an opportunity to kind of deal with some of my stuff. And it makes me want for other people the opportunity to be able to deal with their stuff. And so before I get into what I think, have you ever experienced that? Have you ever looked at something or saw something that made you think, who hurt you?
Yeah. And I can't think of any like specific instances where I've been in that situation, but I do know like watching, like you say, especially some of our shows, and I can just remember having thoughts of like, man, like hurt people hurt people. You know what I mean? And it's not even intentional, I think, a lot of times that when people are just responding from hurt places or unhealed places, and how that that shows up. I can also, it doesn't even have to be negative responses as I'm sitting here like processing through it. I can, if I turn the microscope on myself, I can recall instances where they weren't negative responses, but they were very timid, afraid responses. So, you know how we've talked about like when you have bruises from scars, maybe like a dog bit you and like now you're scared of dogs. I can recall instances where I'm moving into a new situation and maybe it's familiar. I'll use us for an example, like us starting to date. And I was like terrified in the beginning because it was like, I don't know. It was like all the things I always wanted but was afraid to see. And just being afraid to act on it. And I remember my mom saying, like, if you're making choices based on fear, you're not living. You're just existing. And so that's a very clear, like, okay, who hurt you? Why are you afraid of this good thing? Why are you afraid to make a move towards this good thing that is in front of you? Like, where did that response come from?
I think the response that we have, like to being hurt, is like elementary at base. It is very childlike. We learn a lot of things not to do from being hurt by situations. Like you slip and you fall and you correct, right, and you don't do that thing again. And I think about this concept of who hurt you is not meant to come from a place of judgment, right? Because we all have things or situations or people that we can call out and just say that this thing hurt me. And I think a lot of times, rather than saying what that thing is or addressing that particular thing, we just call ourselves making the adjustment and immediately going into places that we feel are safe and never dealing with that thing again,
Yeah.
ever. Right. But the blessing and the happiness that we seek a lot of times is not in that safe place, that
Yeah.
protected space. It's in learning how to address that issue, saying and playing the whole tape through and being able to say, like, this thing hurt me because of this. Right. I've had moments, and if you're just asking me the question, like, who hurt you, I can say God, an ex, you at some point, like, all those things hurt me. But then what I have to deal with is, was it my expectation of you, of God, of an ex, of a parent? You know, was it my expectation? Was it them dealing with their own stuff?
Yeah.
Is the reason why I ended up getting hurt. But I can choose not to operate from a hurt place
Yeah.
because of an experience that hurt me. And I think that has driven some of our past conversations about things not being losses, but being lessons. I think that, hurt and experience all kind of show up to um, usher us into the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought though. Choosing not to respond out of a hurt place
Mhm,
requires some like level of awareness and acknowledgement. And so we all at any moment have a choice on how we can respond to something,
mhm,
but oftentimes people react out of like how they're feeling or the memory of the thing, or back to what I was saying before, like my response was flight, not fight. And
mhm,
so a lot of people, who, especially I think about, people that I know who've always had difficult, like, challenges in their upbringing. And so their first response is to fight because that's all they know. And
mhm,
so when faced with a situation that feels so much like something that they've experienced before, their first response is to like fight. And that's understandable. Doesn't make it right, but it's understandable, right? So, um, to your question or to your thought about it could be God or me or an ex or whoever, sometimes it's like the collection of all of those things. Just life.
mhm.
Life has
It
been
is.
difficult. Life has been
It is.
challenging. And so life is hurt. And so this is the response that I've learned how to employ to protect myself, you
Mhm.
know?
And so then I think the bigger question becomes then, are you are we asking for what it is that we really desire and then being scared of it when it comes because it may expose or leave us out there susceptible to be hurt in a way that we were hurt in the past. And I really think that that's what it looks like, right? Because even when you mentioned, like, when you and I first started dating, like, you were scared, like, you had been asking for this thing, and then here it was, and you were like, wait,
Yeah.
I don't know if I really want to do that, right? We ask for these things and pray these prayers and do all of this stuff, and then it shows up, and we're too scared to come off the shore to go get it, and so
Yeah.
you can choose to stay on the shore and stay in safety, all those things, and be protected, or so you think. But then, to me, it ends up being an unfulfilled life. So when I see those things and when I see those people say those things and it's coming from a place of hurt, it's just like, man, I've been there before. I've been in those spaces where I don't want to take the chance because I may get hurt over there. The thing that I know the most is I know me, right? And I trust me for the most part not to hurt me,
Yeah.
right? But then if I got to trust you not to hurt me, then I don't want to do that because I trusted someone not to hurt me in the past and I got hurt, right? And I don't want to be hurt again. But for me, the shift for me and the zoom out for me is like, what if there's another lesson for me to learn that may cause me some initial hurt, right? Or the lesson may come in a way that is not absolutely comfortable for me, but there's something that I'm supposed to learn from this situation. And I'm not learning that because I'm just scared to walk into it, right? I don't want to experience hurt in the way that I did in the past. None of us want to be hurt. But some things that we are asking for, some things that we are praying for, may not come in the package that we wanted to come in. It may not come in the time frame that we wanted to come in. And all those things are disappointments. All those things are hurts. All those things may not meet the qualifier of what like happiness and what our expectations are. It doesn't mean they aren't coming. It doesn't mean that we don't have to put some feet behind our faith, right? And sometimes that may hurt when it doesn't come in the time or in the way or however our perfect expectation was, but it may still be coming. We have to be willing to experience some level of disappointment to experience the thing that we say that we want.
But what about if it's not around something that we prayed for? So that's example that I shared was very specific to me. What if it's like something small, like um, somebody comes to your house, a vendor, to give you a quote on something, and because you've been screwed over by a contractor in the past, like this person is like just doing their job, asking you like really minimal questions, and you like just go off and are like, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna let you take advantage of me, and da, 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 and it has nothing to do with this person.
Hmm.
It's like what this person is now representing that you've been through in the past. So like that's a very different situation. Like I wouldn't say that it's the thing that the person has prayed for, but they're just in another situation that's very
Hmm.
similar to one they've been in before, and the response is just like they're on 100 when the current situation didn't warrant that.
Hmm.
That's what I think of when I hear like who hurt, like where did that come from? You know?
Hmm. On a different level, I think they're kind of one and the same, right? Because
Mm,
it's still really about like what you are allowing your response to be,
yeah,
right? So the response, even to a contractor coming and me just not trusting them off the rip, like at some point I'm gonna have to trust.
yeah,
At some point I'm gonna have to believe and operate from that place. What if I choose to have my joy anyway? Allow this person to do what it is that they're gonna do, and me do my due diligence, but not allow my mind to be taken hostage by this old situation. It's still like making a choice. At some point, that's what it is. The choice is I don't want to operate from this place of hurt. Like I want to release myself from that thing that hurt me so that I can move forward and live a life that's full of thriving, right? I want to thrive. I don't want to be like existing in this place of distrust for the rest of my days because this one thing happened and I just refuse to let it go.
yeah. I don't know if everybody has that level of awareness though. Like I don't, especially when in a situation you're like, um, if it were a situation like that, I can imagine someone just being like, "No, I'm just being smart," like because I'm not gonna, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So
Mhm.
I could see a justification in just being wiser or being smarter. So I guess what I'm questioning now is like, how do you know uh, that this is maybe something that I need to address and choose to respond differently, or not, or not?
I think it's just getting to that place of awareness, right? There will be some things that you do, and you know that the person that you're giving that energy to didn't deserve it.
Mm,
Like they didn't do
that's true.
anything to earn that.
Hmm.
And that is what self awareness looks like. There are some people who have just leaned into just like, I'm gonna come into this situation and I'm gonna be hardcore because people are not gonna get over on me, and I'm gonna, come from this place of I'm gonna be very stern and I'm gonna be very rigid, and that's just how I'm gonna operate. For me, that's not who I want to be as a person at the core. That's not how I want to experience the world.
Hmm.
Um, that's not how I want the world to experience me. Um, and it's just not who I believe I am at my core.
Yeah.
And there are times in my life where I have chosen to take on that kind of persona because it was a protective stance for me,
Hmm.
right? And I don't believe that my joy and me thriving and me living my best life exists within me having to be in a protective stance all the time.
Hmm.
I believe that my higher power is going to take care of me, and that the energy that I put out into the universe will be returned to me. That is my own self awareness. Those are ledges that I had to talk myself off of. Right? Do I want to be over here always prepared for a blow?
Hmm.
Or do I want to be able to go out and visit places and countries and have experiences that allow me to Yes, be smart, but not always be in a protective stance. Not always be scared that the world is getting ready to attack me. Not no, the world doesn't owe me anything, but at the same time, it's not a well lived life if I'm spending the whole time scared that something bad is going to happen.
Mhm.
Because sometimes that energy that we give out, it brings that same energy
You
to
manifest
us.
it.
We
Yeah, for sure.
manifest that
Mhm.
thing.
Where
And
your
so,
energy like, wherever your focus goes, the energy grows or something like that is a saying also about manifesting. So but if you're focused on the negative thing, you'll get more of that. If you focus
mhm.
on the positive thing, you'll get more of that.
And that's really all that I'm saying, right? I'm not saying that people don't have the right to operate from those spaces. What I'm saying is that I believe that our best lived life is in a space of being free to experience without fear,
Yeah.
without being scared that the world is about to jump down on me.
Mhm.
But I also realize that people have to reconcile that, right? Because if this has been my experience over and over and over again, then yes, I will start to believe that, maybe the world is against me. Maybe the world don't fool with me like that. Or maybe I need to always be in a protective stance. But the inner healing work for me is then what energy am I bringing to that situation now? Am I
Mhm.
bringing this expectation of failure? Am I bringing this expectation that I'm going to be gotten over on? Am I saying that I don't have the faith for this thing that I've been asking for? That I don't have the belief and the willingness to put my faith behind that, or put some feet on my faith in these situations. I'm saying we all have those choices that we have to make, and it's about which one we're going to do.
Mhm. And speaking of, can you recall a situation where you maybe responded, or I want to say responded, reacted from a hurt place, and you were like, "Man, I probably should have done that differently," or maybe you didn't think that afterwards.
Um, I've been a whole bunch of them.
Can
I
you share one?
don't know if I want to share that with y'all.
Oh. Okay.
um, I guess one of the situations that I can recall, particularly when my dad and I were having our difficulties, especially in his older age, as we were trying to like deal with repairing our relationship, was him basically like downplaying like the idea of therapy,
Mm,
downplaying the idea of, I felt like at the time, like the worth of like my degree and
mm,
the information that I brought to the table, and just kind of reducing it to like, hey, I paid for that degree. You don't get to use it on me.
mhm,
Um, and it really made me feel like not seen. Um,
mm,
it really made me feel like I didn't have a whole lot of worth, no matter what, and that even the information that I had to share that was factual did not matter to him. And he chose, I think, that moment to attack rather than receive the information. And it really dug at the core of who I felt like I was becoming in that moment, feeling like I was coming into, like my real grown man ish, and having my stuff together and being able to share what I thought was like some knowledge and some things that had the ability to heal like some hurt places in my family. And it ended up making me withdraw and not talk to my dad for like a month or two, just because I felt like he attacked my worth and who I was at the core of my being at that time. And I felt like in that moment the ultimate disrespect, just as a person. And I was like, I don't have to do this. So I would call the house and ask to speak to my mama.
yeah. That's a whole other conversation we can have about the differences in in the generations, like older generations, and how they feel
Hmm.
about therapy versus prayer. Or we've talked about this a bit. Like they sometimes won't even address the trauma that they've been through, the things they've gone through. Like they just leave it there. They don't speak about it. Um, Yeah, I can understand now that I can understand that, I guess, because you are my husband, I love you, and I feel like I wanna protect you. I can
Mhm,
understand you, like, wanting to keep yourself from experiencing that type of hurt, because that's like your inner circle,
mhm, mhm.
Like, and so if the hurt is coming from there, then, well, damn, like, that's a hard yeah, that's a hard blow to, I think, suffer or to take.
And I think, as we move forward, like into the haze of addressing those hurt places, I think where I found grace for him was understanding that, he chose not to address his hurt places, you know,
Yeah.
um, and it's difficult to address our hurt places, even though I've made the choice to address some of my hurt places. Um, for him and for our parents' generation, not growing up in an environment where they had the resources and where mental health and therapy and all those things were not only readily accessible but um, easy to talk about or easy to normalize or easy to tell somebody that you were going to therapy or
Mhm.
that you had some stuff that you just weren't bouncing back from or you just weren't making the adjustment to or dealing with, especially for men who were always taught that, we are supposed to just make the adjustment, like we're supposed to get knocked down and get right back up, whatever that looks like, though.
Mhm.
You get back up and you limping around, and you just back up. You give men credit for just being back up a lot of times, but you have people who are hurt who are walking around being a shell of themselves,
Yeah.
just walking around being hurt, but giving themselves credit for just being functioning, just being able to, like, I got knocked down and I got back up. But what destruction are you creating in your path
That
as
part.
you walk around injured and
That
not
part.
being your best self?
Mhm.
So that's the haze and finding grace for my dad and ultimately finding grace for myself was knowing that we all have choices that we have to make, and also that I don't want to keep cycle going of not addressing issues because I feel like our relationship could have been so much better.
There's so much to be said about, like, we can unpack. That's, I think, partly where generational cycles come from.
Hmm.
You're just not dealing with the hurt and the trauma that we
Hmm.
already have, and then the next generation repeats it without a lot of times even knowing,
Hmm.
that's what's going on. When the other thing I heard you say is really just not as much about within our the haze choosing it within ourselves, which I want to come back to, but like the haze when we are trying to address it and then the people around us, even the closest people around us, might not be on the same page with healing and wholeness and
Hmm.
thriving. And that's really difficult, because how do you be in relationship with someone who doesn't aspire to the same level of health and wholeness as you do? That's really challenging. Because then, can you ever really be in the type of relationship you desire to have with that person? If there's always, like, I don't know, this thing.
There's so many layers there, though.
Yeah,
Just because, like, think about the things that people say right now. We talk a lot about and coming. We're around the holidays. Y'all can see our tree in the background. But you think about how people say now, like, we don't get together like we used to. Right. So many of us have elected to develop our own traditions and our own small family
our own
gatherings
circles.
because we know that our families of origin, like, them Negroes be fighting and
Yeah,
arguing, and if you get together, somebody gonna have it out and all those kind of things. And rather than do the healing work, uh, they don't want to do the healing work, and we elect not to be around them.
yeah.
If they just gonna get together and fight and drink and do all those things, and or not get together because somebody beefing about what happened at a funeral or something like that, and
Or y'all think y'all better than us
Yeah,
because da 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 da. And it's like, no,
all
we
of
just
those things,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And again, we have to think about the generation before us and the generation before them who could ill afford to like have uncomfortable conversations, um, because they leaned on each other for survival. A lot of things weren't talked about,
yeah,
sometimes out of necessity, sometimes because it was just easier, sometimes because there were other stuff that they had pressing. And rather than fall out with our people, a lot of times we'll just be like, I don't have to go and expose my family to that. But also, when I say I believe that people were doing the best that they could with the information that they had, it was because, man, I'm struggling trying to pay my bills, right? I can't be talking to you about how I traumatized you. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm traumatized too, all those other
yeah,
things. But we have the luxury of speaking from a place of healing, right? And you have to know what privilege looks like. It's a privilege to be able to access therapy.
yeah,
It's a privilege to have um, the wherewithal to be able to say, "Hey, I need to go and address this because it's bigger than me."
yeah. That's true.
When you don't have that knowledge, at baseline,
Yeah,
you don't know when you need to call somebody and do something different.
yeah,
You will teach your children and expect your children to just fall in line with the trauma and just come see their people. Me and my mom had ton of arguments about people that she's elected to continue to deal with that don't mean her any good.
yeah.
And she's like, "Well, you need to call so and so." And I'm like, "I'm not calling that person."
And in Mondella's defense, though, she's the caretaker of the family. She was a nurse by trade, and even in her retired years, she is still like she just takes on the caretaker role. So, despite how someone has behaved or acted, she's the caretaker. So part of that I think is wrapped up in who she identifies as a human being, and again, we're speaking from privilege.
We are.
Yeah.
And I love my mother,
Hmm.
but I think that it is her personal choice
Yeah.
to continue to do things that she does not want to do, that do not fulfill her, that do not benefit her overall health. Um, because that's what she learned to do. That's what she learned that
Yeah.
care and concern and love is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And I have decided for me that it doesn't look like that for me. It looks
Yeah.
like I've learned words like, you know, enabler,
Mm.
and care and concern for me doesn't look like enabling you to do things that are bad for you. I can say, no, I don't want to buy into that because you teach people how to love you and you teach them
Yes.
that they have to care for
Yes.
themselves in that way. But that is my level of understanding. And so I can love and respect my mom if she wants to do that. What she can't do, though, is call me and complain about this thing that she's been doing. She knows that is wrong.
Mm.
Because at the base of who people are, you teach them what is and is not acceptable by your buy in.
Yeah, and I think also back to the generational, it's just generational differences.
Hmm.
That was a generation, and even if you think about like older cousins, even generations where like family members were friends, like that your friends were your cousins, like your
Right.
friends were the people around you, your siblings, and they gathered every week, not just on holidays, but like every week for large family gatherings. And so I believe that they were taught a level of this is what you just do for family. That's why, if there is some type of like rape or molestation within the family, you don't really speak about it because
Hmm.
it's family and this is what you do for family. And so when the outside world was attacking, the black family, like all of the toxicity and unhealthiness, we're just like holding it together for us. And so I can understand having had a lifetime of
Hmm.
that experience, that being taught to her, like, you
Hmm.
know, it would be difficult to then all of a sudden uh, not operate in that way.
It is, but even when you think about those situations where we don't talk about them, then what about the person who's hurt by the secret that you're keeping?
Yeah,
You
I'm
know?
full agreement with you.
Right.
I'm just saying both of those things can be true. I understand the place where it could be coming from. I'm just speculating also at this point, and I can't speak for how another
Hmm.
person feels. I fully am in agreement with how
Hmm.
you see the situation, and also I can understand
Hmm.
based on all of those other things.
And I guess that's getting us to the place of like, how you navigate that.
Mm.
Hell, the best you can. you know, you have to
Uh,
know when you have the emotional bandwidth
yeah,
to, lock into some things and try to promote change and try to bring some good energy to
yeah,
a situation that doesn't um, promote people having to hide how they feel or not being able to walk in their truth and that type of thing.
yeah.
There are times when, there are things going on in my family where I'm just like,
No,
I can't. I
yeah.
I got so much over here right now. Like I can't do that. I've
Mm.
been on the phone with my mom, been like, yeah, I can't do that with y'all. Like that's y'all. That's all y'all. I'm praying for you,
Hmm.
but I can't do that. I don't have the emotional bandwidth. And I think that that's really what it's about, right? Recognizing what you can and cannot do, having real boundaries, being able to say, like, this thing or this situation hurt me. Do I have the emotional bandwidth? Do I have the maturity? Do I have the tools that I need to be able to take this on and deal with it and not allow it to be a stuck place for me?
Yeah. I think what I would offer in terms of how to navigate through it, and it's super cliche, and I'm gonna say it anyway. Um, we really do have to be the change that we want to see. So we have to address our own stuff first, like make sure
Hmm.
we're responding in the way that we want to respond, make sure that we're speaking our truth also. So if it's with someone who maybe not agree with my brand of healing and wholeness and approach to it, is still be able to, with grace and with kindness, respect, but also being very direct, like actually I disagree with maybe how you're responding, or I disagree with how you feel about this, or when you do this, it makes me feel this way. Um, I think be okay with disagreeing if we don't see eye to eye, but just finding a way, and I don't have an answer to this part, to still love and respect them, like not discard the person,
Hmm.
even if we disagree on um, healing and wholeness and yeah, health, mental, emotional health.
And so for me, it's about the relationship
Yeah.
and getting to a point to where we can say to each other, like, this thing doesn't work for me in the
Mhm.
context of our relationship. And again, I don't want us to be people who discard people, right? It's
Mhm.
about how can we be in a relationship and have it be mutually beneficial
Yeah.
so that I can love and support you in a way that you need to be loved and supported, and you can love and support me in a way that I need to be loved and supported, and we're able to exist in this space and be okay with who each other is,
Mhm.
right? And we got to fall out about it.
Right.
And so I elect to find whatever that medium is and to be doing the work to try to find that space rather than um, being that person who's been hurt by family and just don't deal with my family.
Yeah, I don't want
Right.
that either.
Right. And so when we bring it back around to who hurt you, yes, family has hurt me in this space before, but I'm
Mm.
actively navigating getting to a place to where that doesn't have to be what it is.
Yeah.
Right. How can I have grace for this person, but also teach them how to love me?
Mhm.
Right? How can I experience like the fullness of family? One of the things that we experience, I think, at funerals and stuff is, man, that person gone now, and I stopped talking to them 15 years ago
Oh, I
and
thought
didn't
you were
have
gonna
that
say
relationship.
all the drama that happens around funerals and weddings with family. That's a whole other conversation. We uncovered
It's
about 3, 4, 5, 6
it's
conversations.
but it's all interconnected though, right? Because when people
Yeah.
be acting out at funerals, right, it's
Yeah.
really hurt.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really like their missed opportunities for conversation. The oh, somebody done fell off in the casket, bawling and
No,
crying.
let me tell you what families, and this is based on experience. who gonna ride in a family car,
Oh my
who
God, it's
invited in there,
awful.
who not, who get to say something on the program, child.
It's
Who
a
gets
lot,
it's a lot,
but
and that is a
also
hard.
those to me those are manifestations of people trying to control things that they didn't address. So I didn't address that thing. I couldn't control that thing. So I'm finna control this. And if
Mhm.
I don't get to control this, I'm gonna act a fool.
Whose picture made it in the program, who was listed in
So
what order, and child, it's a whole. But I think also to your point, that's people responding out of hurt, is people wanting to be seen and acknowledged, like their place to be memorialized, I guess, either in that person's
mhm.
memory or life or in the family structure at
And
large.
I
It's a
don't
lot
want
of
to be
things.
that. I don't want to be that person, who is dealing with. Because I can remember at my dad's funeral, me looking at several people like, "Who hurt you?"
Mm,
And me like, it wasn't a whole big family car thing for me because I was like, I would be behind this limousine
mhm.
in my car.
Yeah, same thing happened, I think, at my granny's funeral. I remember there being some conversation around who was going to be in family cars, and my mom just kind of coming to me, being like, "There's a whole thing, and can you and your brother, like, can y'all just drive?" And we were like, like riding in the car is not the thing that matters to me at this point. Like, I'm grieving the loss of my grandmother. I'm gonna just
Mhm.
get there how I get there. But yeah, like,
It's the thing though. It's the um is this acting out behavior about like something else
yeah,
that doesn't have to do with this? And that's the difference, right? That's you know the real, like, do I know how to process the loss of relationship or the things that come against relationship? Do I really know how to
yeah.
deal with adversity, or am I just going to be a person who has some other behavior as a result of these things that I experience, rather than actually engaging and dealing with the problem
Yeah.
so that I can be in healthy relationship or grieve in a healthy way or
This
process through things.
this really does bring to mind, like, we didn't have prepared to talk about any resources, but we were going to talk about like the lessons that we learned. What kind of it's included in this whole talk
Hmm.
about how we navigate through it. One of the things that is really coming to mind right now is a book I have not finished, if I'm being honest, but it's a small book, and I just have not gotten back around to it because I have a laundry list of books that are unread around the house
Ridiculous
here
amount of books.
upstairs, and I'm getting to them. Don't judge me. But one of
I'm
them is
judging now.
the Four Agreements, and I can't recall the author right now, but it's a well known book, and it's like the four agreements I think that people have made with themselves, if I'm recalling the gist of the book correctly, and that it prompts them, that dictates how they show up in the world.
Mhm,
And one of the agreements was something along the lines of like, you can't take anything personal because
mhm,
people's response is not about you. How they
mhm,
act is not about you.
mhm,
And it's really like the parts that I read is like, we really go about this world thinking that we are the center of it and that
mhm.
everything revolves around us and how people respond is about us. And like, we just kind of have this almost egotistical, self centered view
Absolutely.
of life. And this agreement is like, actually, how they're responding is not about you at all. Like, it's about them and their own stuff and their own agreements that they've made with themselves.
Mhm.
And so, if I could offer that to this conversation, it would be like, if there is well, who hurt you? We have to maybe find a way to learn that, maybe one of our first responses to not be defense, but to be like, actually, this isn't about me, and I'm not gonna
Mhm.
own that.
Right. And that's the thing, we end up owning things that don't belong to
Yeah.
us and trying to fix things that don't belong to us. Um, and when something ain't your stuff, you're not going to be able to make it make sense. Number one, if it doesn't belong to you anyway,
Yeah.
you can try to find your way through it, make your own agreements, with yourself, and navigate that. But also, when I think about the role that I play in other people's lives, um, a lot of people's experience with me. Uh, is just a snapshot of like their entire being.
Yeah,
Who am I then to make their entire being just about me?
that's a good point.
So
Mhm.
that's the lesson in all of this for me. That's the thing that brings it full circle for me. People's interaction with me is not the totality of who they are.
Mm,
It is a snapshot, a moment in time for them. And what I would like to be is a person who gives them the opportunity to have a positive experience when they experience me.
yeah.
And even if they don't, it's fine. And I ain't got to fall out with them and I ain't got to be angry with them. They won't be the person who I identify as who hurt me because of that small portion of their life or that snapshot of their 40 years or 44 years, or for my dad, his 83 years.
Mhm.
I had him for 42 of them. I'm not gonna make his entire life just about the time that we had together because there was so much more that happened to him, or happened for him, and happened to him throughout those 83 years.
Mhm.
That was not just about me being his son, you know. And yeah, I think that about everybody now, and that helps me have grace for other people. It
Yeah.
ain't just about me. If I make it about me, then that's the most selfish shit I could ever do in life.
And it keeps us in bondage also. It keeps us, yeah. That could be the first one of I can admit one of the first responses sometimes when it's like, I don't want to say first responses, first things I talk myself out of when I've sent someone a message, for example, and they don't respond. I hate being ignored, or like things like that. I now have learned to say they probably have a lot going on, or maybe they
Hmm.
didn't see it, or like I try to think of all the reasons why it's not about me, so that I'm not automatically on the defense.
Hmm.
And more often than not, that practice is showing me that actually it really it really actually isn't about me. And if
Hmm.
I had gotten upset about the thing, it would have been a waste of my energy. I
Hmm.
would have stolen my own joy for no reason. Um, and so I've learned to then go back and be like, "Hey, did you get this thing?" And they'd be like, "Oh no, I didn't even see that." Like,
Hmm.
and so crisis averted
Right.
if I just like remove myself from whatever, like don't tell myself the story that this thing is about me.
Hmm.
Think of all the ways that it probably isn't.
And that goes back to the very thing that I was saying about the energy that we choose,
Mhm.
right? After a thing or a situation, or there's an offense against us, the energy that I choose to bring to that situation is says everything about how it'll go moving forward.
Yeah.
I choose to not allow my energy to rest and abide in the negative,
Yeah.
like in being prepared for bad things, or believing that person just ain't messing with me and forget them,
Mhm.
and I ain't
Mhm.
ever gonna text them again in life. They ain't never got to worry about hearing from me. That type of thing.
Yeah.
What if I don't bring that type of
Yeah.
energy? What if I bring some grace to understand that this person may be going through something with their family, or maybe they don't have childcare today.
Mhm.
Maybe they could use a word of support from me that doesn't exist in me having to get something back out of the situation.
Mhm.
What if I brought a different energy to that situation that could be helpful not only for that person, but also will mean that I'm operating from a place of wholeness,
Yeah.
right? And a place that I don't need this to blue check verify me as meaningful in that person's life.
Mhm.
What if I just be okay?
Yeah. Mm. This is a word. So many things, like you said, are connected and didn't I don't think we intended for this to sway as heavy as it has on family, but
Hmm.
I guess maybe that's how we're feeling since it's the holidays.
I'm sorry, Mama. Shatay did it.
And I appreciate the space to process, through some of that without even realizing that was like at the forefront of our hearts and our minds. But
I think
what
that's what we do here. All
yeah,
right.
just
It's
process our
right. It's just
process.
not. It's not that we are like here to give our expertise.
Uh-uh.
This is like a platform to be like we just regular ass people trying to navigate through it ourselves, and
Yeah.
we might mess around and teach ourselves like
Listen,
how to live our best lives.
almost every episode we go back and listen and be like, "Ooh, that's so on time for me right now." Weeks later,
Right.
I'm I'm so glad I heard that. Really just speaks to we really pray that we are just open vessels and we
Mhm.
put some inspiring thoughts down and then just pray that God will speak through us. And most of the times, like you pray today, like this helps our own selves.
Mhm.
And that's enough for me, quite honestly. But bringing us on back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the topic at hand, what's the music for this moment? What does this feel like?
Listen, Shyla had some knock down, sit down, cry in my room in a corner moments. And there's this old school song by this artist named Avery Sunshine called "The Ugly Part of Me,"
Hmm.
where she talks about like making a bad decision and speaking basically from a hurt space to a person that she cares about, and having to like sit with what she had said and actually say to this person like, I ain't really mean that. That's the ugly part of me speaking.
Mm, or
Um,
the hurt part of me.
yeah. And I think that we all experience those moments when our hurt can show up and speak
Yeah.
before we have a chance to like really think.
Yeah.
And we are tasked with number one, recognizing the ugly parts of us and not allowing the ugly parts of us or the hurt parts of us to show up before the whole and healed parts of us show up, because we have both of those things in us and we make the choices which part of us presents. Well, we still all have those ugly parts of us, but I want the healed part of me to speak before the hurt part
Yeah.
does.
You want to respond, not react. I think
Correct.
that's the,
So,
the goal. I like
Charlie, if
that
y'all
song.
listen to that song and want to cry a little bit, you might want to watch this part of the episode in the car by yourself so you can cry on the way to work. Don't let the little tear dust be in the side of your eye when you get ready to walk in.
Yeah, we're gonna add that one to the playlist. Make sure y'all follow the Love Haze
Music for the
Music
moment.
for the Moment playlist on Spotify. You can catch up on all our past musics for the moments.
Absolutely.
And there's some bangers. It's a really nice playlist that we've curated here for the mood of wholeness and healing, you know?
Hmm.
And on that note, like we always say, life will always present us with the haze,
Hmm.
but we all have everything within us to navigate through it.
Absolutely. And just know that you're not alone.
Mm-mm.
Join us next time, and we all gonna take the journey together.
That's right.
We're gonna do the best we can do.
Together.
Already. We appreciate y'all. We out.
All right.